I think it's becoming increasingly important that we continue to show our solidarity with the ceasefire. Now, in light of America blocking a resolution at the United Nations supporting the ceasefire, which is appalling. So I think the more of us that turn up to just let our own government see how we feel about it is very important.
I'm just incensed at the Western leaders' lack of action over what is basically genocide.
Well, I'm appalled and angry about what's happening in Gaza, and particularly the UK government's approach to that in abstaining from the motion at the United Nations Security Council yesterday. Things have been getting grimmer and grimmer. I was just reading a story this week about a young child who's been hit 3 times by airstrikes, on 3 separate occasions. The first of which he lost his parents, and the third of which he lost his legs. And is a child of a similar age to my own. And it's quite horrifying, and I think it feels anything you do doesn't quite feel enough, but we have to do what we can, and coming here is about as much as we can do at the moment.
I'm here today because I've just listened to a bit of the UN debate yesterday, and then the US voting against it and Britain abstaining, coupled with the complicit British media who don't call out the lies of the Israeli ambassador and various other Israeli officials, and just the inhumanity of it all is this.
And I'm here to lend my support to the besieged civilians in Gaza, and also to put my voice to the voice of the majority of people in this country, and indeed throughout the world, against the murderous war and the collusion of the British and American governments in that. What is shameful to me as a British citizen is to see what the government is saying in our name. They don't speak for the people of Britain, and the Americans certainly don't speak for the people of America or for the world. What we need is not just a ceasefire, but we need the major powers of the West to begin intervening politically in a real way, to searching for a 2-state solution and to stop the genocide that the Israeli government and army, and I'm sure they don't speak for the majority of Israelis, are inflicting upon the people of Palestine, who have lived under appalling conditions since 1947, and now it's got even worse further. So I think even in places far-flung like Orkney and elsewhere in Scotland and Britain, we can lend our voice, however small, in that case. And if all these small voices were to speak together, they would drown out the warmongers.
I'm just here because I can't bear this, absolutely can't, and it gets worse and worse and worse. It's beyond imagination, the horror that's going on. I thought what Hamas did was utterly appalling, but there's no conceivable way of calling this a proportionate response. It's genocide.
I think that what the Americans did yesterday in voting against the UN resolution and what the UK did in abstaining is a real dereliction of duty, and it really is about time that they actually echoed what the rest of the world is saying, and it really is the rest of the world. So I'm appalled at what happened yesterday at the United Nations.
I just think it's absolutely detestable that the world sits by and watches a genocide happening, which is essentially what is happening, and that the United Nations can vote sort of 13 to 15 to enact a ceasefire, and UK abstains and the US can veto the whole thing just as one member, I think is absolutely disgusting. And I think what we're doing is just sitting by and we're watching the annihilation of a people and doing nothing about it. And just, I don't know, it's more than a deep sadness. It's, you know, it's madness that no one's intervening and just allowing it to happen.
I guess it's just as important as ever to be here, and especially given the vote yesterday, which was embarrassing to say the least, to see the UK sitting on their hands while the United States vetoed, you know, the UN Security Council's vote there, and 13 other nations, you know, pushing for humanitarian ceasefire immediately, given what we're seeing coming out of Gaza, through, you know, the reporters on the ground, and I notice now even the BBC are using more footage of what's happening there, so it's going into more homes, and the clamour for action's bound to get louder. So even on a day like this, we need to be visible and vocal.